All right, so today we are learning section 2.4, dividing decimals. All right, in example 1, we're just dividing a decimal by a whole number. We're dividing a decimal by a whole number, so we have 761 and 25 hundredths divided by 21. We need to ask ourselves, all right, we're going to go one digit at a time for the dividend. We're going to ask ourselves 21. Does 21 go into 7? Does 21 go into 7? No, it doesn't. Does 21 go into 76? Yes. All right, so we can kind of round. Well, 21 is close to 20, and I know 20 times 3 is 60, but times 4 is 80, which is a little too high. So I'm going to try a 3. Now I know that I have chosen the right number to go in my quotient if once I subtract, if the number is less than or lower than my divisor, okay, or the number I'm dividing by. So I know that 3 was the correct choice. All right, now I need to bring down my 1. Now 21 goes into 131. About how many times do you think? How many times do you think? 5, 6, probably 6, because 20 times 6 is 120, but 20 times 7 is 140. So now, again, I multiply it out, and I definitely picked the right number because I only have 5 left. Notice that I've already placed my decimal point in my answer. And that's important because you don't want to forget, and remember, you just carry it up exactly where it is in the number. That's exactly where it is, where it goes in the quotient. All right, bring down your 2. 21 goes into 52 about 2 times. Multiply and subtract. And 21 goes into 105 5 times. Multiply it out, and it works out perfectly. In example 2, the only difference is we're multiplying, we're dividing by decimals. So we need to move the decimal out of our divisor. All right, so 3 and 17 hundredths, how many times do I move my decimal? 2. Okay, so do you see what I did there? I moved my decimal 2 places. Instead of it being after the 3, it's after the 7 now. And so now I move it after the 0 and the 8. I move it the same number of places in my dividend and my divisor. Then I place my decimal in my answer, and now I'm ready to divide. 317 goes into 380. How many times? 1. So 1. And then I subtract. Now, how many times do you think it would go into 634? Yeah, about twice. And it just works out perfectly. 1 2/10 is my answer. Now, in the second example, now I have 8 divided by 1 6/10. But I don't have a decimal in my dividend. So what do I do? Zach? Well, it already is after the 8, Elena. Add a 0. Very good. And now I've moved my decimal. 80 divided by 16 gives me my answer of 5. Okay, so if there's no place for me to move my decimal, I need to put a 0 in its place. Now I have 114 thousandths divided by 1 9/10. So again, how many times am I moving my decimal place? Once or 3 times? Only once. Okay, whatever that number on the outside is. So then I move my decimal in my dividend once, put it up in my answer, erase where my decimals used to be, and now I can divide. 19 goes into 1 how many times? Well, 1? 0. Okay, put that 0 placeholder. 19 goes into 11 how many times? 0. Put that 0 placeholder. Don't forget the 0 placeholders. And then 19 goes into 114 about how many times? 6. About 6. Multiply it out, and it works out again perfectly. 6 hundredths. Don't forget your 0 placeholders. If I said round your answer to the nearest penny, what place value are you rounding to? If you're rounding to the nearest penny, what place value? Elena? The hundredths. Very good. So how many decimal places do you have to go out in order to be able to round to the hundredths? You have to go out 1 more, right? so you know what to round the hundredths to. Well, that's example 3. We're rounding our answer. If it says round to the nearest thousandth, then I have to go 1 past the thousandth, right, to be able to round to the thousandth. If it says round to the nearest hundredth, I have to go 1 past the hundredth. Same thing with tenth. I have to go 1 past the tenth to be able to round appropriately. So I have $1.49 divided by 8. I'm simply dividing. 8 goes into 14 once, with 6 left over. 8 goes into 69. How many times?
8.
8 with 5 left over. Do I need to keep going?
Yes. No.
All I have to do is round to the nearest penny.
Oh, no.
I do. I don't know what the 8 rounds to. I don't know if it stays the same or if it goes up. I've got to go 1 more in order to be able to tell. So now I bring down my 0. Now, that changes everything, doesn't it? If I just said 18 cents, I would have been wrong. If I need to round to the nearest hundredth, I have to go to the next place value to see what I'm doing with my 8. All right? So now that I'm into thousandths place, I can stop. Even though 6 times 8 is 48 and I still keep going, that's all I need to work because I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth. 6 rounds the 8 to 9, and my answer is 19 cents. All right, does that make sense why we stopped? Because it said round your answer to the nearest hundredth, so I didn't need to go any farther, even though my answer was not complete, even though I didn't find my final answer. All right, and if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 2.4.